So today I will cover this algorithm called support vector machine, also called as SVM for short. So the first point about this algorithm is that it provides a very high level of accuracy with significantly less computation power. Okay, and it can be used for both regression as well as classification purposes. But in practicality, it is most commonly used for classification objectives. Okay. And the objective of this particular SVM algorithm is to find a hyperplane in an n-dimensional space that distinctly classifies the data points. Okay. So when I am saying n-dimensional space, the n refers to the number of features in the data. Okay. So if there are two features in data or two variables, then you will be working in a two-dimensional space. So that hyperplane will actually be a line which you draw across this two-dimensional space so that you separate those two different data points together. Okay. So if there are three classes in the data, then you'll be working in a three-dimensional space, and the line in the two-dimensional space will become a plane in the three-dimensional space. So that's why it's called as a hyperplane. For any data which is more than 3 dimensions, it is not possible for us to visualize directly. So for our example today, we'll just be talking about 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional spaces. Okay. Now the concept here is that the hyperplane should have maximum margin. So when I say margin, I'm talking about the distance between the data points of both classes. Now I'll go into a bit more detail about what this actually means. So imagine there are two sets of data points. So one we call it as the x1 and the other is called as the x2. Okay, and so basically these are the variables in your data, and there are two classes of your target variable. So let us say one class is of the circle type and the other is of the square type. Okay, now all these lines that you see here, these are all the possible hyperplanes that you can draw. Okay. Now this is very similar to a linear regression concept where we have something called as a line of best fit. Okay. So linear regression, if you remember, it works in something similar, in a similar way. So you have two variables x and y, and then you draw all possible lines across all those data points, and then you pick that particular line which is having the least sum of squares. Okay. So that is why thing called as the optimal hyper. Wherein in linear regression you have a scatter plot with all the data points in a two-dimensional space, and then you draw all possible lines across all those data points, and then you pick that line which has the least sum of squares, and that line is called as the line of best fit. Now similarly, in the SVM concept, what you have is you have a set of data points which is basically the two classes that you have in your data. Let us call one class as the square class and the other class as the circle class, right? And the optimal hyperplane is the one which achieves the maximum margin or the maximum separation between these two classes. Okay, how that exactly works, we will look into it in the subsequent slides. Now, so the technique is called support vector machine, right? So what is exactly meant by the word support vectors? It is nothing but the points that are closer to the hyperplane. Okay, and these points or these support vectors influence the position and orientation of the hyperplane. Okay, and deleting the support vectors will change the position of the hyperplane. So just look at this second picture over here. So this is one particular hyperplane, right? What we have in the center, and whatever data points are closest to this hyperplane, those are called as the support vector. So you see here, if you see this in the circle class, this point is one of the support vector, and this point is the other support vector. And similarly in the square class, if you see, you have this square, this square, this square, which are closest to the hyperplane or the optimal hyperplane. So these are called as the support vectors. Okay. Now, if you look at the second point over here, we are saying the support vectors influence the position and orientation of the hyperplane. So what does that mean? So imagine you don't have these three squares over here. Then you can also try drawing a hyperplane in this particular direction from this top right corner up until here, right? So this could be. Okay, is my interconnection all right? I just got a message saying it was unstable. Okay. So in the second point, if you see, we are saying the support vectors influence the position and orientation of the hyperplane, right? So what that means is basically, just assume for a moment that one of these 3 points is not there, then we might tend to draw a hyperplane in this particular direction. Let's say from the top right corner to this to the bottom left corner over here. So this is how the position of the support vectors influence the direction and position of the hyperplane. Okay, and that's what similarly we are saying here. Deleting the support vectors will change the position of the hyperplane. Okay, and in the previous slide we talked about the optimal hyperplane having the maximum margin. Okay, so what does maximum margin mean? It is nothing but the maximum separation between the data classes. So if you see here, this particular hyperplane, so you have one support vector over here and you have another support vector over here, and the distance between this hyperplane and this closest support vector is the margin, right? So here if you see, the margin is a bit smaller, but here the margin is larger, which is to say that the separation between the two classes of data is larger. Okay. Any questions until now on the basic concept or the principle?
Sai, I'm just curious, like the hyperplane which is distinguishing those classes. So is it something that the algorithm builds itself? Like if it does, like based on like for example, for us to build a linear regression line, right? So we need data, and based on those data points, we fit a line through them, right?
Yes.
So does that mean that this particular hyperplane, which is having a certain margin from all the other planes in that n-dimensional space, is also built on those points?
It is built using, so it is the algorithm which builds this hyperplane basically. What it does is it plots all of these possible hyperplanes in the data, right? Okay. And then it calculates the distance or that margin between the hyperplane and the data class, and it chooses that particular hyperplane which achieves this maximum margin. That's how the algorithm works.
Okay. So basically, whichever the plane which also gives maximum margin is like the best
the optimal
distinguishable. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? Okay, let me just move on to the next one. So the actual mechanics looks something like this. Okay, so it works based on a linear function. So that's why we have a line or a plane, right? So it has a linear function, and the algorithm takes or considers the output of that linear function. Okay, and if that output is -1, we identify the data point with one class. So let's say the circle class, for example. And if the output of that linear function is 1, then we identify it with another class. Let's say the square class. Okay. So this is very similar to a logistic regression scenario where we have that binary logic model, right, which gives you the value of a binary or a dichotomous variable. So it says basically whether the value is 0 or a 1, right? So similarly, here it is -1 or +1. So if it is -1, it belongs to one particular class, and if it is +1, it belongs to another class. Okay. Now, I'll just talk about the steps involved in the SVM process. So the first step is what we call as the maximum classification step. Okay. So we draw all possible hyperplanes in the data, and we consider only those planes that achieve the maximum classification. So assume for a moment that there are 5 possible hyperplanes out of this scatter plot that you can make. Okay, so A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. Now out of these 5 possible hyperplanes, you only consider those planes which achieve the maximum classification, that is A, B, and C. Okay. So why do I say that? So if you see plane D and plane E, they misclassify certain data points. So you just ignore those 2 planes. So what do I mean by misclassification? So you just consider this plane D for a moment. Okay. So whatever data point lies to the left of this plane D is considered to be one class. Okay. So here this would include all of these star data points and this one circle data point. So basically, if you consider plane D as the optimal hyperplane, what you're saying is all of these stars plus this one circle, you're classifying it as one group of data points, which is not right? Because this star is a different group and the circle belongs to a different group. So plane D does not achieve that maximum classification. Similarly, if you take plane E, for instance, the same scenario applies, right? So along with all of these star data points, you are again misclassifying this circle data point because this also falls to the left of this plane E, right? So D and E do not achieve your objective of maximum classification. But on the other hand, if you see A, B, and C, all of these 3 planes perfectly classify these 2 classes separately. So you take plane B, for example, all the stars lie to the left of B and all the circles lie to the right of B. Similarly for A and C. So this is what is meant by the maximum classification, which is the first step followed by the SVM algorithm. Understood this step? Any questions?
All good, Sai, from my end.
Okay, let's move on to the next step. So once you have achieved this maximum classification, that is to say, once you have a set of or subset of hyperplanes which achieve this perfect classification, what you do is you go for something called as the best separation. Okay. So what do I mean by this best separation? So in the previous step, what we said was, out of these 5 possible hyperplanes, A, B, and C are the ones which achieve that maximum classification, right? Now, out of these 3, which one to select? So that is the next step. So out of these 3, we select that which achieves the best separation. So what do I mean by that? So if you just look at the first point here, I'm saying if moved, line A has a chance to misclassify a red colored data point. Okay. So what do I mean by that? So you see this is the line A, right? Now this particular point, or you take this point for example, it is very, very close to this hyperplane, right? So if this line is slightly moved towards the right, then the chance of misclassifying these 2 data points increases. Okay, so this is something like you have this data science concept called as overfitting, right? Where you train a model or fine-tune a model to such an extent that it best suits only one particular set of data points. So tomorrow if you get another data set and you apply that model on that new data set, the accuracy might not be that high. So the accuracy will reduce. So it is similar. So that's what we call as overfitting. And in this SVM scenario, line A sort of has that overfitting characteristic. So we discard this line A. Similarly, if you see line B also, if you move a little bit towards the left, it has a chance to misclassify this star data point as a circle, right? So line B is also not the optimal line. Okay, or you look at it another way. Tomorrow you get another data set, and imagine you choose line B as the optimal line. Now it is possible that one star data point lies just on this line B. Then how would we classify it? That becomes a problem, right? So lines A and B do not achieve that best separation. Okay, so that is why we say there should be sufficient margins on both sides of the line. Therefore, what we do is we select line C as the optimal hyperplane because it has the sufficient margins on both sides, and this classifies all points with the maximum margin. So margin is nothing but, like I told you, the difference between this hyperplane and the support vectors on either sides of the hyperplane. So that distance is maximum for hyperplane C. Okay, and this is also more robust for additional data points that may occur in the future. So this space that you have here, right, this margin, so that's why we call it as a margin. You can think of it something like a margin of error. So this is the data point that we have today, and tomorrow you might get additional data points which could lie over here or here, and you will still be classifying them correctly. Okay, so that is the advantage that line C gives you, and therefore it is more robust to be applied on future data sets, and that is why you choose line C as the optimal hyperplane. Okay. So this is the core of how support vector machine works. So there is just one more concept to be covered, but before I go into that, any questions here until now on how this technique works? Okay, let me move on to the next slide. So there is one complication in the support vector machine technique. Okay, what that means is basically the data might not be linearly separable in all cases. So what we did here, if you see this scatter plot, or if you take this scatter plot for example, all of the hyperplanes, we were just able to draw them as lines, right? Because it was possible, or the layout of the data points was such that it was possible to make all these lines out of the data. Okay, but this might not be the case in all scenarios. So that is why you have you consider this picture over here where we are calling it as input space. Okay, so here it is not possible to draw a perfect straight line which will accurately classify these data points into two classes, right? So in these situations, what you do is you project the data to a higher dimension until it becomes linearly separable. Okay, so higher dimension as in you make a two-dimensional data set into a three-dimensional space. So you transform this input space into something called the feature space, where this transformation realigns or reorders these data points in a manner such that it becomes linearly separable. Okay, that is what you do here. As to exactly how this transformation occurs, I will cover it in the next slides. So there is one particular transformation process called as the kernel transformation process. So imagine this is your original, this is how your original data points look like. Okay, so you apply a transformation called as the Z transformation. So Z is given by x squared plus y squared. So for each of these points, this is basically xn squared plus yn squared. So x1 squared plus x2 squared. Sorry, x1 squared plus y1 squared plus x2 squared plus y2 squared, and so on. So for each of these applied data points, you take the x and y coordinates and then you apply this Z transformation. And once you apply the Z transformation, this arrangement of data points that you have on the left gets transformed to something like this. Okay, so now you see after this transformation, you can linearly separate these two classes by drawing a line in the middle, right? That's what we have done here. So this is how you, so in case your data points are not linearly separable, you apply this sort of a transformation process to make it linearly separable. And this particular transformation that we saw here is called as the kernel transformation process. So similarly, there are other transformation processes as well within the kernel transformation. So one is called as the linear kernel, the other is called as the polynomial kernel, and then there is one more transformation called as the Gaussian kernel. Okay, so linear kernel is nothing but a simple straight line that you draw over here. The first picture that we have here. This is very similar to the default hyperplane that we come up with, but the disadvantage is that this might not be suitable for very complicated data. Okay, so the next level of kernel that we have is something called as the polynomial kernel, which rather than drawing a straight line draws a curved line. So this sort of navigates through some of the deeper nitty-gritties in the data and achieves a better separation than does the linear kernel. The third different type of kernel that we have is something called as the Gaussian kernel. So Gaussian kernel is it's born out of that normal distribution or the normal bell curve that you have. Only it is projected, the data is projected into a higher dimension. So if you remember, the normal distribution curve is also called as the Gaussian distribution curve, right? So you see what we have done here. We have data in a two-dimensional space. Like we said here, for the kernel transformation, we transform this to a higher dimension. So we have taken this two-dimensional data, we have projected it into a three-dimensional space, okay? And this three-dimensional projection takes the shape of a normal distribution curve in 3D, right? So that is why we call this method as the Gaussian kernel. Okay? So we have something called as the decision surface, which achieves that separation between the two classes of data that we have here. So the red class and the green class. So this is, so in case your data is not linearly separable, in case it has many complications, you apply this sort of a transformation process in order to make it linearly separable, and then you run the SVM algorithm. Now these are things which the algorithm takes care of for you. So that is why when you run the SVM package in statistical software such as R or Python, that has inbuilt functions to achieve these objectives here. So it will, you can choose between the linear kernel, polynomial kernel, or Gaussian kernel, see what works best, and then so any function of this sort has parameters to be fine-tuned, right? So when doing SVM, these are the parameters that you fine-tune, and thereby you build a SVM model so that you get a decent level of accuracy when you predict or classify the data points. So this is what I had for today.